Have you ever spent 30 minutes scrolling through Netflix only to give up and rewatch a show you've already seen 10 times?
Are you kidding? That was literally my Tuesday night. I had thousands of movies at my fingertips, and I ended up watching The Office for the 10th time. It's exhausting.
Exhausting is the perfect word. Or what about spending an hour reading reviews for something simple, like a new water bottle? If you feel like your life is being swallowed by endless choices, you aren't alone. In fact, you're experiencing a psychological trap.
A trap? That sounds ominous.
It is. And by the end of this episode, you will learn the secret to making decisions that actually lead to happiness, how to stop the what-if cycle of regret, and of course, upgrade your English skills along the way. You don't want to miss this. It's the key to reclaiming your time and mental energy.
Welcome back, Sunnies, to Sunny English Bite. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sunny. We're so glad you're here to explore the psychology of growth with us. Let's dive into our first chapter.
Chapter 1, The Paradox of Choice.
So this idea was popularized by psychologist Barry Schwartz. The core concept is that while some choice is good, too much choice doesn't make us freer, it makes us miserable.
Right. It's like standing in the cereal aisle at the supermarket. You just want breakfast, but there are 100 different boxes staring back at you.
And according to Schwartz, this explosion of choice leads to 3 negative outcomes. First, as you said, paralysis. We're so afraid of making the wrong choice that we make no choice at all, like your Netflix example.
Okay, that makes sense. Paralysis. What's the second one?
Second, even if we do make a choice, we end up less satisfied with it. Why? Because with so many options, our expectations skyrocket. We expect to find the perfect option. When our chosen cereal is just good, not life-changing, we feel disappointed.
So the bar is set impossibly high. And the third?
The third is regret and self-blame. When there are only 2 options and you make a bad choice, you can blame the world for having bad options. But when there are 100 options and you pick one that isn't perfect, whose fault is it?
Yours. All yours. Wow, that's a heavy dose of reality. Chapter 2, Maximizers versus Satisficers.
Okay, so Schwartz categorizes decision makers into 2 main types. First, we have the maximizers. These are the people who need to be sure that every purchase or decision is the absolute best one possible.
That sounds familiar. This is the person with 37 tabs open comparing Bluetooth speakers, isn't it?
That's the one. They research exhaustively because they're hunting for the perfect choice. On the other hand, you have satisficers.
Satisficers? What does that mean?
It's a mix of satisfy and suffice. A satisficer has a set of criteria, a standard, and once they find an option that meets that standard, they stop looking.
So they're not worried if there's something slightly better out there. They just pick one that's good enough.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Research consistently shows that while maximizers might, on average, make objectively better decisions, they are less happy with them.
No way. So all that extra effort leads to more misery?
Yes, they are more prone to regret, second-guessing, and social comparison. Satisficers, on the other hand, make a decision, feel good about it, and move on with their lives. They experience less stress and more contentment.
I think I'm a recovering maximizer. It's a tough habit to break.
It is, but understanding the difference is the first step. To make this even clearer, let's look at some fascinating real-world experiments.
Chapter 3, The Jam Experiment.
Okay, the most famous study on this is the jam experiment. Researchers set up a tasting booth in a grocery store. On one day, they offered 24 different flavors of jam. On another day, they offered only 6.
And I bet more people stopped at the booth with 24 jams. It's more eye-catching.
You're right, they did. But here's the crazy part. Of the people who stopped at the 24 jam booth, only 3% actually bought a jar.
Only 3%? That's so low.
But at the 6 jam booth, 30% of people made a purchase, a tenfold increase. The choice was less overwhelming, so people were more likely to act.
That's incredible. It's proof that less really is more. What about the dating experiment?
That one applies the same logic to romance. Researchers studied speed dating events. They found that as the number of potential partners increased, participants were less likely to feel satisfied with any single choice. They kept wondering if a better match was at the next table.
That's basically the modern dating app experience in a nutshell, an endless swipeable deck of options.
It absolutely is. Now, let's add another layer of psychological fun to this. We're going to talk about a trap that many modern choices have built into them. Don't go anywhere, Sonnies. This next part explains so much about regret.
Chapter 4: The Trap of Reversible Choices and Counterfactual Thinking.
Okay, so you'd think that being able to reverse a decision, like a 30-day return policy, would make us happier, right?
Yeah, it's a safety net. If I don't like it, I can just take it back. No big deal.
Well, psychologist Daniel Gilbert found the opposite is true. When a decision is final or irreversible, our brains have a fantastic coping mechanism. It's like a psychological immune system. We rationalize the choice and focus on its good qualities to feel better about it.
So you commit, and your brain helps you love what you chose.
Precisely. But when a choice is reversible, that system doesn't kick in. You never fully commit. You keep the door open, constantly reevaluating and second-guessing your decision, which ultimately makes you less satisfied.
That's so counterintuitive.
It is. And this is amplified by something called counterfactual thinking. It's a fancy term for asking what if.
Imagining alternate realities where I chose the other cereal.
Exactly. The more options there are, the easier it is to imagine a better outcome. You chose option A, but you can easily imagine the wonderful life you'd have with option B, C, or D. This constant what-ifs game is a recipe for regret.
Okay, so my brain is a regret-generating machine fueled by too many choices. This all sounds a bit depressing, Sonny. Is there any good news?
Of course, this is Sunny English Bite. Knowledge is power, and now that we understand the problem, we can talk about how to fix it.
Chapter 5: 5 Practical Solutions.
All right, Sunnies, grab a pen. Solution number 1, choose when to choose. Don't waste your limited mental energy on trivial decisions. For things like what to eat for lunch or which toothpaste to buy, just pick one and move on. Save your decision-making power for what really matters.
I like that. Conserve your brain power. What's number 2?
Number 2, be a satisficer, not a maximizer. Before you start looking, define your criteria. What does good enough look like? For a new laptop, maybe it's under $1,000, has a good keyboard, and is lightweight. The first one you find that checks all the boxes, you buy it. You don't need the best one in the world.
Okay, so set your standards beforehand. That would have saved me about 8 hours of my life last month. What's next?
Number 3, make your decisions irreversible. Take the tag off the new shirt. Delete the other dating apps after a few good dates with someone. When you commit, your psychological immune system can get to work making you feel good about your choice.
Burn the ships. I get it. Scary, but probably effective. Number 4?
Number 4, practice gratitude. After you make a choice, focus on what you like about it. Instead of thinking about the features your new phone doesn't have, appreciate the amazing camera it does have. Gratitude short-circuits regret.
Focus on the positive. A classic for a reason. And the final one?
Number 5, limit your exposure to options. Don't look at 100 vacation destinations. Ask a friend for a recommendation, or limit your search to 3 places. Artificially create scarcity for yourself. Less is more.
Those are all super practical. I feel like I can actually start doing those today.
That's the goal. And now for another practical part of our show, it's time for our English Bite segment, where we break down some of the key vocab we use today.
Let's do it. First up, you used the word overwhelming.
Yes, overwhelming. It means something is so great in amount or effect that it's difficult to deal with. For example, the number of choices on the menu was overwhelming.
Or you could say, walking into the toy store on Christmas Eve was completely overwhelming for the parents. What's next?
Let's do second guess. This means to criticize or question a decision after it has been made. For instance, maximizers often second-guess their choices, wondering if they could have done better.
Right. A common example is I keep second guessing myself about whether I should have taken that job offer.
Great example. Okay, how about settle for? This phrase means to accept something that is less than what you really want because you don't think you can get any better. For example, Satisficers don't see it as settling for less. They see it as finding what's good enough.
Or he didn't want to settle for the first apartment he saw, so he spent weeks looking for the perfect one.
Perfect. And finally, our big concept, counterfactual thinking. As we said, it's the process of imagining alternative versions of past events. Thinking, what if? A simple example is, after missing the bus, her mind was filled with counterfactual thoughts, like, if only I had left 5 minutes earlier.
It's the ultimate source of regret. I think that covers our English bite for today.
So, to wrap everything up, let's think of it this way. Imagine you're an astronomer. You could spend your entire life trying to look at every single star in the night sky, feeling paralyzed by the sheer number of them, and never truly studying any single one.
That's the maximizer overwhelmed by the cosmos.
Exactly. But a happy, successful astronomer points their telescope at one star or one small constellation and learns everything they can about it. They find joy and meaning by limiting their focus. They choose a good enough patch of sky and explore it deeply.
The core message is to be that astronomer. Find your star and stop worrying about the rest of the universe. I love that.
So, this week, Sunnies, we challenge you to try one of our 5 solutions. Pick one small area of your life and try being a Satisficer. Let us know how it goes in the comments.
And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to Sunny English Bite for more insights into psychology, self-development, and of course, learning English in a fun and practical way.
Thanks for tuning in, Sunnies. Until next time, make good enough choices.
Bye, everyone.